I never saw it coming. Not like this. Not with her. My life with Jessica had always felt stable, predictable, even. We had a rhythm, a quiet comfort in our routines. She was my partner, my best friend, my safe place. But sometimes safety feels like a cage. And sometimes the key to that cage appears when you least expect it. Elena had been in our lives for years. Jessica's best friend. My friend by association. She was stunning, dark waves cascading over her shoulders, full lips that seemed to always be curled into a secret, piercing eyes that could hold a man hostage. But I never allowed myself to look at her like that. At least, not until that night. The air was thick with humidity, the kind that makes everything stick, clothes, thoughts, sins. Jessica had left town for the weekend to visit her parents, leaving me alone. Or so I thought. A knock at the door startled me. When I opened it, there she was. Elena, holding a bottle of wine, wearing a dress that clung to every curve. "Hope you don't mind some company," she said, stepping inside before I could answer. I hesitated, then closed the door. "Jessica didn't mention you were stopping by," she smirked, placing the wine on the table. "She doesn't know." Something about the way she said it sent a shiver down my spine. We sat on the couch, the glow from the TV flickering against the walls. She poured 2 glasses, passing one to me. I took it, fingers brushing hers for a fraction of a second too long. "So," she said, swirling her drink, "how's married life?" I chuckled. "The same as it always is." She raised an eyebrow. "That bad?" I shot her a look. "I didn't say it was bad. You didn't say it was good either." Her words hung in the air, heavy with something unspoken. I downed my drink, feeling the warmth spread through my chest. She watched me, eyes lingering, analyzing. "Tell me the truth," she murmured. "Do you ever wonder?" I frowned. "Wonder what?" Her lips curled into a slow, knowing smile. "What it would be like, if things were different." The air shifted. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. "Elena!" She leaned in, her breath hot against my skin. "If I'm wrong, tell me to stop." My body screamed at me to push her away. To stand up. To do the right thing. But I didn't. Her lips brushed against mine, soft, teasing. A test. A temptation. I failed. The kiss deepened. My hands found her waist, pulling her closer. She sighed against my mouth, pressing herself against me, fingers tangled in my hair. This was wrong. I knew it. I just didn't care. Elena's nails raked lightly down my neck, igniting something I hadn't felt in years. Every rational thought screamed at me to stop, to push her away, to remember the woman I had vowed to love. But then she shifted, pressing her body fully against mine, her breath hot and ragged. I kissed her harder. Her fingers gripped my shirt, yanking me closer, her body molding into mine. The taste of wine lingered on her lips, sweet and intoxicating. My hands found the curve of her waist, tracing the soft fabric of her dress as she arched into me. The flickering light from the television cast shadows along her face, making her look even more forbidden, dangerous, thrilling, untouchable, yet right here in my arms. "Bedroom," she murmured against my lips, her voice a breathless command. Reality hit me like a wave crashing against rock. I hesitated, my chest rising and falling with uneven breaths. "Elena, this..." She cut me off with another kiss, this one slower, more deliberate, her hands moving lower. "You don't want to stop," she whispered, biting my lower lip. "So don't." She was right. I didn't. I scooped her up, her legs wrapping around my waist as I carried her down the hallway. The door slammed behind us, but I barely heard it over the roaring in my ears. I pressed her against the wall, my mouth trailing down her throat, tasting the heat of her skin as she gasped my name. Clothes fell away, piece by piece, the last remnants of my restraint slipping with them. Her back arched as I traced a path down her spine, lips following fingertips, my breath ragged. "You feel incredible," I muttered, voice thick with need. She laughed, a sound dripping with mischief. "You haven't even started yet." She turned in my arms, pressing her body against mine, her hands running down my chest, lower, teasing. I groaned, losing myself in her touch. This was reckless. This was betrayal. And I had never wanted anything more. The moment our bodies connected, every last shred of guilt burned away, replaced by sheer, raw desire. She clung to me, gasping, nails digging into my skin. Our movements were urgent, desperate, as if we had been starving for this moment our entire lives. Her breath hitched, a soft moan escaping her lips as she pressed her forehead against mine. God, I knew it, she panted. Knew what? I managed to ask between ragged breaths. She smirked, biting her lip. That you wanted me just as much as I wanted you. I couldn't answer. I could only move, only feel, only lose myself completely in her. Minutes blurred into hours. Skin against skin. Hands exploring. Bodies tangled in a heat that neither of us tried to resist. Every touch, every gasp, every whispered plea pushed me further past the point of return. By the time we finally collapsed against the sheets, sweat slicked and breathless, the weight of what I had done loomed over me like a storm cloud. But when she curled up against me, fingers tracing idle circles on my chest, I didn't move. I didn't regret it. Not yet. Morning light streamed through the curtains, cutting across the tangled sheets, the lingering scent of sweat and sin hanging heavy in the air. Elena stirred beside me, her bare skin warm against mine, her breath slow and steady. For a moment, everything felt still, like the world had paused, allowing me to savor the aftermath of last night's indulgence. Then reality hit. Jessica. Guilt clawed at my throat as I stared at the ceiling. The weight of what I had done pressed down on my chest like a crushing tide. I had betrayed her. My wife. The woman who had stood by me through everything. The woman who trusted me. Elena shifted, her fingertips grazing my stomach. You're thinking too much, she murmured, voice thick with sleep. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. I shouldn't have. She propped herself up on one elbow, dark hair tumbling over her shoulder, a smirk playing on her lips. Don't ruin it. I turned to face her, conflict warring inside me. Jessica! She won't know. Her fingers traced slow, lazy patterns across my skin. Unless you tell her. I sat up, rubbing my face. That's not the point. She sighed, sitting up behind me, her hands sliding over my shoulders. Why are you torturing yourself? Last night was. Her nails scraped lightly down my back, sending a shiver through me. Incredible. I exhaled sharply, closing my eyes. It had been more than incredible. It had been intoxicating. Consuming. Everything I didn't know I craved. And that terrified me. Elena pressed her lips against the nape of my neck, her voice a whisper. You don't have to feel bad, you know. I turned to her, frowning. How can you say that? Her gaze was steady, unwavering. Because I know you. You weren't happy, not really. You just convinced yourself you were. She reached for my hand, threading her fingers through mine. Tell me I'm wrong. I opened my mouth. No words came out. Because she wasn't wrong. Jessica and I had drifted apart over the years, our relationship more habit than passion. She had become distant, always busy, always distracted. But did that justify what I had done? I ran a hand through my hair. This can't happen again. Elena's expression didn't change. If anything, her smirk deepened. We'll see. She leaned in, pressing one last kiss to my lips before slipping out of bed. I watched as she gathered her clothes, every movement slow, deliberate, teasing. When she turned back to me, she was fully dressed, her confidence unshaken. I'll let myself out, she said. But don't pretend you don't want more. I didn't answer. I couldn't. As the door clicked shut behind her, I lay back against the pillows, my mind a chaotic mess of guilt, desire, and something far more dangerous. The need to feel her again. Days blurred into weeks, but the memory of Elena never faded. It lingered like an intoxicating scent, a ghostly whisper in the back of my mind. No matter how much I tried to suppress it, she was there, In my thoughts, in my dreams, in the aching hunger I couldn't seem to satisfy. Jessica noticed. She wasn't stupid. She picked up on the way I flinched when she touched me, the way I stared into nothing for minutes at a time, lost in the war raging inside me. One evening, as she set down her glass of wine, her voice cut through the silence. "You've been different lately." I forced a casual shrug. "Work's been stressful." She studied me, her gaze sharp. "It's not work." A knot tightened in my stomach. "What are you talking about?" Jessica leaned forward, folding her arms on the table. "I know when something's off. You're distant. Distracted." She exhaled, shaking her head. "If something's wrong, just tell me." "Tell her?" I clenched my jaw, gripping my fork with more force than necessary. If I told her, everything would collapse. The life we had built, the stability, the illusion of happiness we both clung to so desperately. "I'm fine," I lied. She didn't look convinced. That night, as Jessica slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling, my mind a tangled mess. I had told myself what happened with Elena was a mistake, a single moment of weakness. But deep down, I knew the truth. It wasn't a mistake. It was inevitable. And it wasn't over. The next morning, my resolve shattered the moment I saw her name flash across my phone's screen. "Elena, I need to see you." I should have ignored it, blocked her number, walked away before I destroyed everything. Instead, I texted back. "Me, when and where?" The hotel room was dimly lit, the air heavy with tension and unspoken words. Elena stood by the window, her silhouette outlined against the city lights. She turned as I entered, her eyes dark with something unreadable. "I knew you'd come," she said, a hint of triumph in her voice. I ran a hand through my hair, exhaling sharply. "This is a bad idea." She stepped closer, her fingers brushing my chest. "But you're here." I swallowed hard, every muscle in my body screaming at me to walk away, to resist, to fix my marriage before it was too late. But when her lips met mine, I didn't resist. I pulled her against me, desperate, hungry, lost in the fire she ignited with a single touch. Clothes fell away, bodies tangled, and for a moment, the rest of the world ceased to exist. Until my phone buzzed. A single notification that sent ice through my veins. "Jessica, where are you?" My heart pounded as I stared at the screen, guilt crashing over me like a tidal wave. Elena traced a finger down my arm, smirking. "You're mine now," she whispered. And deep down I knew she was right.